it changed me like drastically. Like I was hella disrespectful to her and my mom, and hella disrespectful to just overall the women in my life, because like I became that like closed off. I couldn't be vulnerable because I felt like I couldn't be vulnerable around her. Like I became that shell.
I want to know from you, like, on that note of healing and allowing yourself that time, like, what has been your experience through, like, obviously we've been talking about our relationships, but like, what's the importance, do you think, of healing, and what can you speak to that, like, in your own personal capacity as a man?
I think, well, for starters, I think a lot of you niggas is not healed.
And that's fine to admit, bro.
Yeah, and I think that's where it starts, right? I think it's fine to understand and admit that you're not okay. I feel like the reason why I've been so quiet and listening to everybody is because I feel like I've been able to relate to a lot of the things you guys are saying, and just kind of deepen it and kind of trying to like work through everything, right? I feel like it falls into so many different categories of, like, we've talked about accountability, we've talked about insecurities, we've talked about so many different things. And I think myself, like, I always point this out, and I try to point this out within the young men in my community, between that age of like 16 too, but like I would say that age of like 18 through 21 is very crucial, bro. Like
you're not the same.
You're not, bro. You're not the same person, and it's really where that, I would say it's really where that man is made. Now, obviously, there's still growth there, but it's really where, at least for someone like me, I had to gauge what type of man I wanted to be, like, actually speaking, right? In terms of my healing journey, I was in a 3-year relationship the same way. I would say my relationship was more so, it was a dependency-driven relationship, which I know a lot of people can, like, relate to where basically how me and her were together, it was more so like trauma, basically, like trauma bonded, trauma bonds, and then a dependency driven relationship where like I was like, I had to always be there, and I had to always make sure she was good, and I had to always, you know what I mean, etc. What that did though was it deteriorated. I would say it deteriorated both of our mental states, but it definitely, I would say, deteriorated mine in a personal aspect, because I had never really been in tune with my emotions to that extent, right? And when you're always pouring into someone, you don't have any time to kind of like allow yourself to fill up or on whatever that is, right? I would say basically what it did is where we see a lot of men go, right? I was in a rough ass relationship where it was a lot of arguing, a lot of fucking toxic behavior, a lot of shit. And it made me a more closed off man to like a lot of shit, like moving on, right? When it came to like, even with all the other women that I ended up like being with between the ages of like, I ain't doing the math.
Gotta do the math.
That looks like crazy. Not like that, but I would say, between like 20 and 21, like all of those women, and it actually trickled into a lot of horrible like actions within myself, because I wasn't ready for it, bro. There was nothing left in me, and that's why that healing is so crucial, right? One thing I want to point out, well, I got a few things, but one thing I wanted to also point out is like when I talk about what it created, how I ended up treating women and how it ended up changing my viewpoint. I had the same view of like, bro, her family didn't fuck with me, like damn near at all, right? I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no support from my family, realistically, because like it's just dynamic. The whole thing, dynamic,
get
right?
More and more story as we record.
Yeah, I know, right? Like no support from them, so it was just me, right? It was just me, and it changed me like drastically. Like I was hella disrespectful to her and my mom, and hella disrespectful to just overall the women in my life, because like I became that like closed off. I couldn't be vulnerable because I felt like I couldn't be vulnerable around her. Like I became that shell of who I actually am. And I feel like that's where a lot of men stop.
They get
that healing. They
shell.
stop that. They stop. They completely shut their brains off. And then that's where that Myron Gaines comes from. That women are this and all girls are the same, and etc.
And to be fair, that is a hard
journey. No, for sure.
Yeah, it's not like this. It's not like anyone could have.
You can't just like go through shit like that. Oh, okay, I guess.
It's not like anyone would have looked at this nigga and been like, yeah, you gotta. Obviously, you want him to be better, but you don't want to. Yeah, nigga, stop. What the fuck you doing that for? That's not how you don't control people's actions that way. It's a very hard journey to like come out on the other side of as a man once you get all those signs. I've even felt that where it's like you struggle trying to. At least in my situation, it was weird because I'm like, I gotta continue talking about all types of shit or whatever, but it's like when you're not getting certain cues from your partner, it's like very easy to be like, okay, I'm just gonna shut down certain things. I'm like, I know you don't give a fuck.
Real. And it got to that point, and even in then, that's where I feel like accountability still has to be had. Right. As a man, bro, I feel like one of the worst things you could do in a relationship is get out of a relationship and think you didn't do shit wrong as a person. Like as
oh my god, that was me.
Like
that was me.
With that, like
that was me.
When you were in your relationship and you were kind of like pouring everything you had to her, and like the treatment wasn't there, and it would be a situation like, bro, why did you do this? Like, did you have a time where like the accountability went completely out the window, and you kind of like gave up and was like, okay, well, like this is just what it is.
Yeah, nah. I mean, I feel like. It's that constant battle. I feel like when I was in the relationship, it was a lot harder for me to see the shit that I did wrong. Because I did a lot of shit wrong too. Like I wouldn't say I was a great partner either, right? And I think that's another part of that like accountability and healing journey that you have to understand. Like, bro, niggas be walking around this bitch like they shit don't stink.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like and that's everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro,
you gonna have the homies in your ear telling, man, she ain't shit, bro.
Like, bro, I tried to really refrain from that when I got out of it initially. Refrain from like even the shit we were saying. Like I tried to really refrain from that, and then I turned around and realized like, no, we were creating those negative environments, bro. We was creating negative environments where we was sitting there like, oh nah, you did everything for her, man. You did this, you did that. Yeah. When it's like, no, bro. Like there was a lot of shit you was missing as well, bro. I was not a man yet. I was not a man yet to even be in a relationship like that yet, right? So. I think understanding that there's lines to this shit. Yeah. I would say like
get through it all, nigga. This is venting season. Yes, sir.
Yeah, go through your shit.
Nah, bro. I would say I feel like to that point, to back on the point of like healing. Yeah. Right. And I feel like that's what men need. I feel like men need spaces where they could understand how to work through their healing. I would say the things that have helped me. One, music helped me like
oh my god,
yes sir.
Music for sure. Not like, bro. You know, I hate to say it, but like I remember growing up and I always like hate on my parents for how they be like, oh well, you listen to that garbage and you da 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 da, and like nah, it's the I'm gonna keep it a being. They're right. When you listen to certain types of music, bro. It puts you in those bad mentalities, bro. And I feel like when you listen, like, on the contrary, right? When you listen to other types of music, it puts you in a better headspace to actually deep and go through and heal from the shit you're going through, right? For instance, I would say I went through, like listening to, like, The Weeknd. Listening to The Weeknd, bro, going through a breakup is top 10 worst thing you can fucking do. Because like
not a fun experience.
And I would say this, right? It helped me, right? Because I mean, I wouldn't take it back, but I would say like it helped me in terms of like, you know, having something there where I felt like I could relate to it, but it harmed me because the feelings I was getting from that type of music was like not productive. It wasn't productive at all for me. Yeah. And I would say like right now I'm in a much more productive headspace because of music. I would think another thing is building a support system, like whatever that may look like, whether it is like understanding that you can have both things, right? You can work and grind and make that your goal to like get through this healing thing while simultaneously not hating women. Yeah, you don't have to do both of those things.
I want to go back to what you brought up about how like finding that, having that healing journey and everything, when it comes to the mindset that you're going to pull from it as a man, right? You have to be, like you said, you have to be yourself and figure out who you are before you get into a relationship. And that doesn't mean that like at 18, you need to go figure out your entire life. Right. What that really does mean though, is that like, hey, if you decide that you want to take care of yourself, that means being able to cry. That means being able to talk about the shit that makes you feel small, the shit that makes you feel like less of a man, around people who you trust with that information. And if there are, your thoughts should not be focusing on what a woman will say about you doing that. Because a lot of people will be like, it's really easy for you to say that you got an XYZ and heal, but I cry around my girl and she don't want an XYZ.
I cried around my girl and she didn't fuck with it. The one of the first and only times I cried around my girl, she was like, I remember like I cried, it was cool, whatever. And then like a few months later, I remember we were talking, we were laughing about some bullshit. And she was like, you remember that one time you like cried in front of me? I was like, yeah. And I'm like smiling shit because we were just like chilling. Yeah. She's like, you remember that one time you cried? I was like, yeah. She was like, yeah, like that was like horrible. Like I hated it. And it like completely threw me off, like killed my whole shit, right? Because obviously, like that's a vulnerable ass situation. That's one of the most vulnerable situations I could have ever been in. And you basically just been like, yeah, nah, that shit was like crazy.
Right there.
Did I? Yeah, right there, right? Did I then like, will I let that define me now as a man? Will I let that define me now in every, that's the question. Will I let that define me now in every single relationship? I've been cheated on. I was cheated on girls, but I've done things that could be considered as cheating. I've gone through the ringer, I feel like, about the multiple different like bad pathways that you could go. And I've decided as a man that I don't want to be that way. I don't want to be alone forever. I don't want to have to be bitter forever. I don't want to hate her forever. I don't want to hate myself forever.
And thank you for watching this long. If you haven't already, subscribe. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you doing? You think we just sitting here doing it for nothing?
You think you're gonna sit here and not do
Need
shit?
to
Like,
eat. I know you're not subscribed. Click it.
cool.